Hey, and welcome to another Sports Brawl match. I am Malcolm. I'm not a sports person, so don't shoot me. But they were desperate times for Judge, so they got me in here to host this. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we've got some great competitors. We've got JTH here. JTH, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. Kind of like you, though. I don't really know how I'm here. I somehow won my first match. Don't know how that happened, but hopefully we can make it 2 in a row. I know my opponent's actually pretty knowledgeable, pretty good, and I know I'm going to have my work cut out for me, but hopefully I can get the job done.
And also, he's facing Jacob. Jacob, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I mean, JTH just called me pretty, so I can't be too mad at him now. No, but this is a little bit of redemption. JTH, his previous match was against a stable mate of mine, so I'm going to have to avenge that loss. And then after I beat him, I'm going to go on and I'm going to take this championship. So let's just do it.
Yeah, and I've got two great judges here with me. I've got Kevin here. Kevin's feeling a bit under the weather, so he's probably not going to talk much, but how's it going, Kevin?
Yeah, feeling a little under the weather, but still excited to hear some good sports arguments. Always in the mood for a good sports debate. So let's get it on.
And I've also got Jonathan Peck here right now. Jonathan, how's it going?
Very good, Malcolm. Very good. You see what I'm doing right now? I'm doing my sports voice announcer right here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay. Very good, Malcolm. This is my normal voice. Very good. And I can't wait. I recognize these two players right here. I know one of them right here. And this is will be first to me. This is my first time judging a match. So not only, I hope I might do well. If I do okay after this is over, just one of you don't at me right here if I made a mistake or an error. So I'm just a judge.
But yeah, we've got some great questions here. So how this works is the main round is 90-second opening, 5-minute free form, and a 1-minute closing. I don't think people want to be here all day for a 90-minute opening. So, and the speed round, if we get to it, is 45, 30, 20. But we'll find out if we get to it. We'll go to the first question, which is in the category of NCAA basketball. And the question was, who is the best coach in the NCAA basketball? And I'm going to go to get JDH to open first on this one. So I'll put everyone else into the green room. So JDH, you got 90 seconds for your opening. Time begins when you start talking.
Well, best college basketball coach I went with is arguably the greatest coach in North Carolina's history, which is Dean Smith. Career of 879 career wins to about 250 losses, so a very, very good career winning percentage. 17 career ACC regular season championships, 13 ACC tournament berths, and also was in the NCAA or NIT tournament for 31 consecutive years, something that hardly anyone has ever been able to accomplish. I don't believe John Wooden did it. I don't believe Adolph Rupp did it. And maybe even the person that my opponent picked as well also did, but we'll see what he brings up to the table. So, yes, Dean Smith was my choice for best NCAA basketball coach.
All right. And now you're going to bring in Jacob for his opening. Jacob, you got 90 seconds on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right. Well, Malcolm, I would love to talk 90 minutes about this, but just all sports in general, because sports is awesome. But while yes, JTH, you did pick one of the best coaches in North Carolina history, you didn't pick the best coach in North Carolina history. You didn't pick the best coach of that time frame. But It's all right because I'm gonna tear you down here in the next 5 minutes. But no, the correct answer for the best coach in NCAA basketball history is the coach who has a lot more wins than Dean Smith ever did, ever could imagine. He has the most impossible name to pronounce. So I will do y'all a favor. I will pronounce it for you. He is commonly referred to as Coach K. That'd be Mike Krzyzewski, who is a coach of the Duke Blue Devils.
Is that your opening done?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just the way you stops. It's like, is there any more to say?
It's like he said 90 minutes, so I was expecting at least 90 minutes.
But anyway, now we're going to the main freeform debate round, which is 5 minutes long. And time begins when someone starts talking.
Okay, so JTH, I just want to say something real quick that you brought up. You said Dean Smith has the most NIT tournament appearances. Well, yeah, Coach K only has 2, but that's not really a good thing to go off of because the NIT tournament, it stands, it's like the something invitational tournament. I can't remember the exact name. It's commonly referred to as the not in tournament because they take everyone who didn't make it to the big dance college basketball tournament and they're like, okay, we're going to throw you in the NIT just to give everyone else something to watch the couple days while basketball is not happening.
Clarification, I said has either been invited to the NCAA tournament or NIT tournament for 31 consecutive years. So he's had a tournament berth 31 straight years. And also keep in mind, back in like the 60s and 70s, that was back when only 8 teams got invited to the NCAA tournament. So then 8 teams got invited to the NIT, which means for 31 straight years, it was a very good chance he was at least a top 16 basketball program. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. All right. So yeah, for 30 however many years, he was a top 16. Coach K, for the same amount of time, has been a top 10. He's constantly had his team one of the number 1 seeds, number 1 in the ACC. He's had 12 Final Four appearances, 15 ACC tournament championships, more than Dean Smith, 12 regular season ACC championships, 6-time Coach of the Year. I mean, let's not waste time by saying, well, my guy is better because he's constantly been at the higher level because they've both been in the higher level. I am going to give you something, though, that Dean Smith was not able to do that Coach K was able to do. Dean Smith had 879 career wins at North Carolina. That's a cute number because Coach K is sitting at 1,138. And this number was looked at about a week ago. I'm going to do a little peek behind the curtain. He's still coaching. Duke is still playing, and Duke is still winning. So he was sitting at 1,138 last week. That number is going up from here.
He would have a lot more if he didn't have a lot of upsets that happened. I mean, as of this recording, he just got upset at home to Stephen F. Austin as a 25-point favorite. That's one of Coach K's big detriments is that he loses games that he shouldn't lose. He's had numerous first-round exits in the NCAA tournament. That loss he had to Lehigh several years back was unforgivable. Another, again, a 30-point favorite that he lost in that game convincingly. That's something that you cannot say about Dean Smith. He never lost games that he should not have lost in that fashion. Also, if you're going to talk about NCAA coaches, you also have to put the recruiting in there. Dean Smith was a far better recruiter than Mike Krzyzewski ever was. By the way, recruited the arguably greatest basketball player of all time in Michael Jordan, James Worthy, Sam Perkins, and all that. So I think being a great recruiter is also just as good as packing up wins. And the only reason Dean Smith doesn't have is more wins is because he retired in 1997. He could have easily coached for another 10 years and gained maybe another 250 wins. So if that was the case, Mike Krzyzewski would probably still arguably be chasing Dean Smith for a career win record. He only did it. He only has that many because he retired. So to me, his win list could be insurmountable if he didn't choose to leave on his own terms. It's not like he was fired. It's not like he well, I guess he did quit. He retired. But take it away.
Okay. Yeah. You say his big detriments are he's lost games he should have won. Everyone loses games they should have won. That's the whole point of the March Madness tournament, is you can have a 16 seed beat a 1 seed. We watched that last year when UMBC beat Virginia, and no one was saying, man, Virginia is a horrible team. No, they turned around and won the very next year. Everyone has those games that they should have won, but they lost. It happens. The match that happened a couple days ago between Stephen F. Austin, the common term for NCAA right now is one and done, because a lot of players go to college for a year and then leave. That's exactly what Duke has been facing. A lot of their players have left. This is a brand new Duke team. Most of these players have not been playing that long together. They got one loss. Boo freaking who. They're still going to probably win the ACC this year, if not finish second or third. And then they're gonna get into the tournament. They're gonna go pretty far in the tournament. They might win. Coach K is an excellent recruiter. I mean, he has to go against some of the best schools, some of the best recruiters, and recruit people to come play at Duke. Duke's not a big college. I mean, the only reason people know about him is because of their college basketball. They have nothing else. He has to go into North Carolina and get people to go to Duke as opposed to NC State.
All right. That was definitely a heated main round. JH went first on the opening, so Jacob, you're going to go first on the closing. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Okay. You cannot say that Coach K is bad at recruiting. He is a fantastic recruiter. And the fact that he's been able to keep teams in the top tier of college basketball with the one and done, every year he has a brand new team. While, yes, Dean Smith was able to recruit the GOAT, Michael Jordan, Coach K has been able to recruit a ton of great players. I mean, Kyrie Irving, go away, ESPN notification. Grayson Allen. I can just sit here and name off players. It's not going to matter. But here's another thing. Coach K has won 5 national championships. Dean Smith only 2. And only 1 with the GOAT, Michael Jordan. He wasn't able to capitalize on the 3 years Jordan was there. Coach K has been able to take not the greatest players known, but still make championship caliber teams out of them. And they've been able to win championships. 3 more than double what Dean Smith was able to do at UNC. And again, Roy Williams, the better UNC coach. Definitely better than Dean Smith.
All right. And now 1 minute is on the clock. JDH, time begins when you start talking.
The only thing that Jacob brought up about Mike Krzyzewski's coaching career was only his time at Duke. Never even brought up his 5 years at the University of Army. I wonder why. Maybe it's because he never won when he was there. Only had 1 NIT tournament berth, which he just said is not that important. Now, I only counted 1. Unless Wikipedia lied, of course, which, of course, that means he could. He talked about, Mike Krzyzewski recruited some great players. You brought up Kyrie Irving. Everybody says he's dysfunctional. Brought up Grayson Allen, Mr. averaging 6 points per game at Memphis. That's not really a who's who of great talent there. You brought up the fact that Dean Smith recruited Michael Jordan. Sam Perkins, James Worthy, multiple-time NBA champions. You also never brought up the fact about North Carolina had to deal with great academic profiles and had to deal with top 5 academic standards for over 60 years. North Carolina's had to deal with. Never even brought up Duke's academic standards. I thought that would be the first thing you would have brought up, and the Catholic things with Duke. So
that was definitely a great battle. Time to bring in the judges here. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. Who are you going to give your point to?
This was a close one. I'll keep it short. Just based on stats alone, I'm going to give this one to Jacob. Coach Krzyzewski with the 1,138 wins. He's still winning. I mean, I know he didn't win when he first started with Army, but he was first starting out. I mean, Dean Smith is obviously a legend, but he did retire early. We don't know what could have possibly happened. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one to Jacob.
Jonathan, who are you going to give your point to and why?
Same thing with Kevin is a close one, but I'm gonna be on the opposite. I'm gonna go with JTH though. I was gonna go with Jacob's idea until JTH's closer around here. He put out some of the things right here to kind of check out Jacob's right here. Yes, JTH's pick coach was retired a little earlier, but at the same time though, the impact that he did when he's still there around here cannot be denied, and I think he put up a better argument right here, so I had to go with JTH.
And me, I definitely heard a lot from both players, stats wise, about the coaches. I'm going to give the slight edge to Jacob on this. I think the stats that Jacob brought up were good. I don't think JD did a good job of debating them, but it was really, really close. But yeah. So Jacob cuts first blood on this. All right. The next question we have is in the category of auto racing, and what is the best race that Ayrton Senna has ever done? I know I butchered that name, but Jacob, 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Malcolm, it's okay that you butchered his name. So Ayrton Senna, and again, I'm about 98% sure I pronounced his name correctly. If I didn't, Ayrton, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. But when you think of Ayrton Senna, you think of the best Formula One racer of all time. And really, there's quite a bit of races to prove that he was the best. But there's one that single-handedly, you look at that performance, and you can tell he was a cut above the rest. I am, of course, referring to the 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix, where he finished first. He won the race. But not only that, he dominated the entire race. And I will explain why here in a little bit. Malcolm, I'm going to go ahead and finish my opening.
All right. And JDH, you got 9 seconds on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Well, no surprise. Jacob picked the 85 Portuguese Grand Prix because it was Senna's first career win. So, of course, it's the best moment that many people would say. Me personally, I went a different route. One race that many people probably don't remember as much of, and it was his third of a three-peat that he had at arguably one of Formula One's best crown jewel events, the Belgian Grand Prix, and I'm talking about the 1990 Belgian Grand Prix. Just like Jacob's choice, he started on pole, won the race wire to wire, never trailed at any point. The thing that made this race interesting, though, is the fact that Senna had to overcome many former Formula One multiple world champions, such as Gerhard Berger and Alan Prost, Nigel Mansell, and along Nelson Piquet, along with many others. He had to overcome many certain situations, kind of a bizarre race, and the fact that it had multiple restarts and all that. Anybody that knows anything about Formula One, standing starts are very, very unpredictable. Anybody can always get a better start than you. You can always stall out the car. And he overcame not one, not two, but three standing starts and overcame them all and went wire to wire, start to finish, was the winner of the 1990 Belgian Grand Prix, the third of a three-peat. That's why I think that was the defining moment of what put him as the single greatest Formula One racer of all time and Ayrton Senna's best Formula One moment.
Just on time. As I get the time ready. 5 minutes is on the clock, and time begins when someone starts talking.
All right, you
So
brought
JTH,
the fact. Yep.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I just want to clarify real quick, because I would hate to keep butchering his name. It's Ayrton Senna, correct?
It's Ayrton Senna.
Ayrton. Okay. He's Brazilian, so he has a cool name. Yeah. All right. Now you can go ahead and say what you were saying, JTH. I will let you.
I was gonna. You brought up the fact of why his race was so dominant, and I believe you're gonna say he won by about a minute. I think you're gonna say that, if that's correct. The reason why that happened was because all the big names, all the names that I mentioned, wrecked or retired at some point in the race. So basically, it means he had no competition by the end of that race. So of course he dominated. Austral, where the Portuguese Grand Prix is, I've never been a fan of that race because it's kind of like Barcelona, Catalunya, the Spanish Grand Prix. It's just not known for good racing or good passing whatsoever. So a person that usually is out front will stay out front there. And that was kind of the ultimate example for that. And it's unfortunately the reason why the Portuguese Grand Prix is now the way of the dodo, because it just did not produce good racing and why it's no longer with us. The thing about also the other thing that you brought up, or didn't, I brought it up for you. Yes, that's Ayrton Senna's first career win. But to say that it's his crowning moment is like saying Tom Brady's first Super Bowl is his most crowning moment just because it's his first. I've never agreed with that. I think it's a kind of not a very well thought out argument. Unless you have something else that you would like to point out that makes it the greatest, I'm all ears.
Yes, I would love to, and thank you for trying to make my arguments for me. Don't worry, I am a big boy, JTH. I can beat you by myself. So no, here's the reason why I picked the 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix. Well, yes, it was his first win. He dominated. I mean, you said it. He beat second place by a minute. And okay, if you want to say it's because everyone quit, everyone wrecked. It's not good for passing. Usually whoever starts first, ends first. He lapped every competitor but the second place finisher. And there were more than 2 people who finished that race. He was able to pass every single person at least once. The reason why it wasn't a good race, in your words, because it was a very hazardous race. It was raining during the time. He was still able to beat the record for the fastest lap time at that point, which proves that, hey, he was going to do anything to win, and he wanted to win that. Of all 67 laps in that race, he led. He had the fastest lap time. He dominated that race. He didn't care that, hey, the track's a little wet. He knew what he wanted to do, and he did it. With your race, 44 laps, he led every single one of them, so not as many laps as mine. It was a great track, but here's the issue. If this was what is the best race to watch, I'd probably give it to you, because the guy who finished second finished 4 seconds behind him, Alain Prost. Very close race. In fact, Alain had the fastest track time.
But the question is, what was the best race for Ayrton Senna? Based on that alone, it's obviously the 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix.
Well, first off, it's Alain Prost, so let me correct you there. So you also said yes. Senna won my race by 4 seconds. I think that's also a much bigger deal because it limits the opportunities and mistakes that you have to make. So the fact that you have someone always behind you at all times means you can never, at any point, make any mistakes. Yes, you said 44 laps. Obviously, Spa is twice as long as Estoril. It's freaking 7 kilometers long, which obviously means you have shorter lap time. There's also 23 turns. When you take that means 23 turns, 41 laps. There's over 800 opportunities to make a mistake at a circuit that is very, very tricky, very, very treacherous to race at. He had that many opportunities to make a mistake, never did, overcame everybody that was behind him, and overcame all the odds, along with the fact that he was, again, going for a three-peat at this race that is so difficult to win at, which means that's even more added pressure. When he hasn't won a race, there's no pressure because you've got nothing to lose. And again, because he's so far ahead, again, that's even less, pressure to have to make a mistake. You can drive off the track, lose 20 seconds. Oh, man, it's still leading by 40 seconds. There's no pressure at all. Even if you make a catastrophic mistake, you're still way out in front. The 1990 Belgian Grand Prix limited the opportunities of mistakes that he had to make, and he made 0. To me, that was the epitome of what made Senna a great Formula One driver. Sorry about that, Jake. I was trying to give you some more time to talk there.
Oh, you're fine. My wife called me, and it screwed up my headphones, so I had to rush to find my wired headphones.
I was wondering what happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought it was my headphones. So I checked mine. I was like, what the hell's good?
I thought I went deaf. For a second there, I thought I was getting old.
But with that, we hit the closings, and because Jacob went first on this one, JDH, you're going to go first on the closing. 1 minute on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Senna's first win, as Jacob pointed out, was in 1985. Obviously, a lot of people would think that's a big deal because it's his first win. He's not an established name. On the flip side, you can say that all the established racers that were in my race, Pross, Mansell, PK, were not yet at their peak prime performance. I think the only big name that was any higher than those at the time was a very aging, getting ready to retire Nicky Lauda, who was on his way out. So at the end of the day, there just was not as much competition, not as many drivers in their prime in his particular race, whereas my particular race, many more drivers were in their prime, many more peak racing teams at the time. At the time, I believe there was 26 drivers, 13 teams, a lot more competition that would be gunning for you. And at the time, that's when Formula One was a lot more balanced, a lot more good teams, which means that we're even more drivers, not even the peak name drivers, that were gunning for Senna. And again, as I said before, he overcame all the odds, did the three-peat at Spa.
Time. Hi, Jacob, 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
JTH, I have never once said that this is his best race because it was his first. It was his best race because it was the most dominant. You made the comment that there were more chances for him to mess up in your race. And if he did mess up in my race, it didn't matter because he was still in the lead. That's true. But guess what? He didn't mess up. And he still had the same amount, even though he didn't have as many turns. He's on a wet road. As someone who has slid off of a road for turning an eighth of an inch, moving my steering wheel just the slightest amount, going 60 miles an hour, and completely hydroplaning, going to my left side and then swinging off to my right, it's impossible to control a car moving high speeds on a wet track. Ayrton was going faster than I was going on a wet track and was able to control his car. You know, he dominated that race. And you can try to say, oh, well, there weren't as many people, no one big name. He still was able to take the competition and demolish them.
Right. But yeah, there was definitely a good battle there. But yeah, I'm gonna go first on this one. Yeah, this was tough because they both put up really good points. Like JD was talking about all the established people that was in his race before their prime and how he beat all of them, and Jacob was talking about the conditions and a whole bunch of facts that he barely made any mistakes. I'm probably going to give the slight edge to Jacob on this, just because I think that the comments he brought up about the conditions of the track and all that weren't quite shot down by JTH, but it was enough to sort of it was enough for me to give him the point. Jonathan, who do you think should get the point?
By listening to the both arguments, they put up, in my mind, little similar thing that they say for each of their picks. But for me, I'm had to go, but even though it's close, I had to go with JTH on this one because, yeah, the pick itself is sort of the event itself is might be unconventional right here. But the things that he pointed out, I think maybe having a benefit to his factor because if you're doing the conditions right here, there could have been any instances that he wouldn't make it as far right here, though. And he put up a good argument right here that he didn't make it through, and he put up the better argument right here. So I had to go with JTH on that one.
Which means, Kevin, you're the tiebreaker. Who are you going to give your point to?
My point is going to go to JTH. He made a really good argument about how he only won the race by 4 seconds, and you can't make any mistakes when someone's 4 seconds behind you. And even though Jacob brought up really good points about the rain and how he lapped all but the second place finisher, I mean, that takes a lot of the pressure off when you're that far ahead. So JTH brought up a lot of good points too, and that one specific point just won me over. So my point goes to JTH.
And with that, JTH gets the point on the second round. As I bring that one in. Now we move on to the next question, which is in the category of NCAA football. And question is, what is the best team in NCAA football with the best chance to win the championship this season, I believe. But JDH, you got 9 seconds on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Well, at the time of this recording, my team just obliterated their most hated rival, arguably the biggest rivalry in college football, in the University of Michigan. I'm, of course, going with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ironically, when we were picking these, Ohio State was actually still the number 2 ranked team over Jacob's pick. But there was just something about Ohio State that I just liked a little bit more than Jacob's pick throughout the year. They just had a much more well-balanced team with more balance. I really like the defense. I think the front 7 on defense is actually really, really good, really underrated and sound. I like the secondary that they've had. And the one thing I've really been impressed with is the fact, even with the caliber of competition that the Big Ten has had this year, other than, some teams like Maryland, not going to talk about them. Ohio State has overcame every single obstacle. They blew out Wisconsin, blew out Michigan, as I said, completely controlled the game against Penn State. So it just never seemed like they were missing a beat at any point. And going into the college football playoff, you need to be hitting your stride at all time, no matter who the opponent, what the conditions are. Just, to me, I think they're just the more sound, well-balanced team. So I picked Ohio State.
All right. So bring in Jacob. You got 90 seconds on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right. Thank you, JTH, for picking Ohio State, because they are the most overrated team in the top 10 right now. Now, the true pick, well, yes, they are not number 1 anymore. They have dropped to number 2 for stupid bullcrap reasons, and I'm going to go in depth on those. I'm going to pick a team that, well, yes, didn't beat their most hated rival last week. They did that a couple weeks ago. They've had one of the hardest schedules so far this year. They play in the hardest conference, the Southeastern Conference. And just by saying that, most people know who I'm talking about. I am, of course, going with the Louisiana State University Tigers. Go Tigers. They have one of the best players in college football right now in Joe Burrow. Definitely the front runner for the Heisman. There's no more tank for Tua because it's now blow for Joe. He's definitely going to be the number 1 pick. He's definitely gonna play in the NFL for a bad team, and I really hope that he is able to turn that team season around and make them front runners like we have seen in the past. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go with LSU. They too have been able to dominate most of their games. Well, yes, they haven't been able to dominate all of them. They've had some closer ones. I'm gonna prove to you here in a little bit why JTH, that's a bullcrap reason to say Ohio State's the best team.
And that's time, and I'll put 5 minutes on the clock. But yeah, all right, 5 minutes is on the clock. Time begins when someone starts talking.
All right, so JTH, This is it. This is the time I got to tell you why your reasoning of them blowing out every opponent is straight up bull crap. Plain and simple, they haven't played anyone. I'm going to be that guy and say it. They have had 4 games against ranked competitors at the time when they played the team they were ranked. They played number 25 Michigan State, who is now 6-6, and we found out is not as good of a team as everyone thought they would be at the beginning of the season. Number 13 Wisconsin they beat, which, okay, I'll tell you why that's not a real reason to say they're the better team. Number 8 Penn State, and while yes, that was a close game, you want to know something funny? Ohio State knocked out Penn State starting quarterback in like the second quarter. So they were playing with their backup quarterback for most of the game, and were able to come back 20-0, make it 20-17, and almost win that game. And then of course this last game against Michigan, who is like the number 13th ranked team at the time, and they were able to blow them out. But here's the one issue with Ohio State. The only way you're going to be able to beat them is by throwing the ball. They have proved that they can stop the run. They have one of the biggest defensive line in the Big Ten. Big Ten doesn't have big offensive line. Most teams that they have played have run the ball. They try to run it down your throats. Wisconsin, they have Jonathan Taylor, the best running back in the league, probably going to be the first running back drafted. Well, if Ohio State's biggest weapon is their run stopping, you're not going to be able to run the ball against them. They have not played a team with a great quarterback. The best quarterback they played was Shea Patterson of Michigan, who in the first half was able to throw for 250 yards and kept the game really close. There's just some boneheaded moves that gave Ohio State a lead and then led to Michigan pretty much quitting. I mean, if you watched the second half, they were not competing.
All right. The best quarterback that LSU played all year was a one-legged Tua, and it took a zillion mistakes and a half-crippled Tua, and LSU still barely won that game. If it wasn't for that, LSU would not be undefeated, probably would not even be in discussion as the best team in college football right now. You also brought up, let's see, only had a 3-point win against Auburn at home, which at the time did not look very good. Obviously, now they've beaten Alabama, so it looks a little bit better. Also, there's no guarantee right now that LSU could beat Georgia. There's a lot of people that do think Georgia can beat LSU because Georgia does have a formula that can beat them. I don't know if that's true or not. I personally don't think LSU will lose to Georgia, but there are a lot of people that are making that case. Also, the other thing is just Ohio State is much more established in the college football playoff. They've been there. They've done that. So not having to worry about the pressure, having the experience in the college football playoff is a big deal. LSU has not been there in a while. I don't think they've even been to the college football playoff since it was established. So you have to worry about, are those players going to be conditioned and ready for that college football playoff atmosphere? Are they? I don't know. Joe Burrow, he's kind of off and on, honestly. Yes, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick, but that doesn't mean he's going to perform in the big game. Yes, he performed pretty well against Alabama. He performed pretty well against Auburn, but I have not seen a great Heisman caliber game that a lot of people have seen. I mean,
Vanderbilt, Texas A&M.
We're going to talk about Vanderbilt, really.
Alabama, he threw for 350 yards. Every game he has played, he has demolished his teams. Best quarterback they played, Tua Tagovailoa. I'll give you that. But they've also played Bo Nix, the Auburn quarterback. They've also played that guy from Florida. I cannot remember his name, but the rookie sensation, the guy who was a backup, came out of nowhere when Philippe Franks got injured and led Florida to like 3 straight wins and actually second in the SEC right now. While, yes, LSU is not guaranteed the SEC championship game, I'll give you that. Georgia is going to be a very fun game. I cannot wait to watch that. If by chance Georgia is able to pull off the miracle, because if you watch the way Jake Fromm's been playing, he's not been a great quarterback. That's really going to be the only way to beat LSU is to throw, because they have a very good defense too. They have one of the best run stoppers. They have great corners. Jake Fromm's been doing horrible at throwing the ball. They've really only been doing the run, which, guess what? LSU can stop. LSU can stop the run. Guess what?
Time.
Ohio State.
All right. That was definitely a heated battle. Well, 1 minute on the clock. We started with JT8 for the opening. Jacob, you're going to go first on the closing. 1 minute starts when time. 1 minute starts when you start talking.
Extra minute, please.
The extra minute, which of course on brand. I didn't actually mention that at the start, but everyone gets an extra minute. 2 minutes is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Okay, Ohio State has proved that they are not able to stop the throw. The first half against Michigan, it was, I can't think of the score right now, but it was like 28-21, very close, or 28-20, that's right. Very close game. Shea Patterson threw for 250 yards, was tearing apart that defense. And then he had a dropped handoff to his running back. Ohio State was able to retrieve it before the end of the second half. Michigan was able to stop them. They were about to punt it, and they called Michigan offsides, which then Ohio State was able to capitalize on that, score a touchdown, get a big lead, and then if you watch the second half of that game, Michigan was not playing. Here's the deal, though. Joe Burrow so far has thrown for 4,014 yards and 41 touchdowns. You say he hasn't given you a Heisman performance, it's because you're not watching his games. All 11 games, he has been the best player on that field. They have a decent run game with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 1,100 yards rushing so far. And guess what? They have not one, but two great receivers, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, both with over 1,000 yards receiving each, both with double-digit touchdowns. Guess what? Ohio State, if you're going to try to stop the throw, you're going to be covering up on one receiver. Guess what? LSU has two receivers and a running back. And not to mention, the only thing Ohio State can do great on offense is run. Justin Fields, their quarterback, is not the best at throwing. He's really good at running, though. I'll give him that. J.K. Dobbins, another great running back. So they run. Guess what LSU can do? They can stop the run. Ohio State has not played anybody. I will yell that until I can't speak anymore because it's true. All their 4 games that they played against top-rated opponents, again, only 3 of them are now in the top 20. None of them in the top 10.
All right. Now we go to JT for his close. Unless he wants to use his 1 minute, but but yeah, your time begins when you start talking, JDH.
First off, I found it funny how Jacob talked about how weak the Big Ten is and then brought up Vanderbilt a couple minutes later, talk about complete contradiction there. He also talked about, all the ranked teams that Ohio State has beaten, that they don't mean as much. Ironically, Ohio State has beaten as many ranked teams as LSU has during the regular season. That's 4. He also brought up the fact that Michigan State, not as good as they were when they were ranked, when Ohio State beat them. You could say the same thing about LSU when they beat Texas. Texas, I believe, is 7-5. I don't think they're ranked anymore, so that's a double standard there. Everything that you can say about Ohio State, you can attack as a negative. You can say the exact same thing about LSU, about the teams that they beat and their quality of opponent play. To me, and he brought up the fact that Ohio State can run the ball better. To me, I think that's what you need to win the college football playoff. I think it's the exact same thing in the NFL. The best running teams are usually the teams that can control the clock, control the game, and can win at the end of the day. Alabama. A lot of people say that Alabama usually won one play. I disagree. Probably should have used that extension, but
it's all good. All right. Jonathan, I'm going to go to you first. Who should get the point and why?
All right. Both of them main flaw for both of them is the Ohio State University, not Ohio State Buckeyes. It's the Ohio State Buckeyes. So, okay. be serious for a moment. I had to go with Jacob. The reason I had to go with Jacob because that he put everything he said around here about Louisiana and all the major things he does, throw the ball, not only run the ball, but a run-stop defense around here. They have a good passing schemes right here. Talk about the quarterback, all that stuff. It's everything I needed right here to give my point to Jacob.
Kevin, who are you going to give your point to and why?
Excuse me. I'm also going to give my point to Jacob. He brought too much to the table in this. JTH, you started off hot, talking about the balanced defense, about how they just beat Michigan. But when Jacob started talking about Joe Burrow, and then he even brought up your quarterback, and he brought up his receiver, running back, quarterback, defense, and you didn't even bring up any of your players. He just had too much, and I feel like that put you on your heels. So my point goes to Jacob.
Yeah, this was a interesting battle. I was actually going to go the other way. I was going to go to JTH, just because I thought JTH managed to counter a lot of what Jacob said, especially in the closing where he sort of said that in football, it's the team that can control the ball better is the better team. So that itself would have led me to give the point to JTH, but my vote doesn't matter. That point's going to go to Jacob in the end, which brings us to our last main round question, which is going to be in the category of NBA. And the question is, who is the most impressive rookie this season? And I remember to put the time back to where it should be. And 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right. So the most impressive rookie so far in the NBA. This is an interesting question because usually you have your couple of rookie standouts. And there hasn't been the one that hey, this is going to be the one rookie who's going to be great. Because really that one rookie got injured before the season started. I am referring to Zion Williamson, of course, who is not my pick, by the way. Just want to clarify that. So that being said, after watching a little bit of the season, there's really one performance though that has stood out. He hasn't been able to lead his team to a winning record. As soon as I tell you his team, you will know why. But he's still been able to play fantastic. He's still been able to get great numbers without a good team behind him. The person that I am picking is RJ Barrett, who is currently playing for the New York Knicks. Again, one of the worst basketball franchises ever. I really hope he goes to a different team so that he doesn't be thrown into this black hole that is the New York Knicks. But still, even that, he's been able to play very well by himself. And that's why I'm picking RJ Barrett.
All right. And that's just on time. Now, JTH. And 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Well, Jacob brought up the fact that there was not really any standout rookie performances so far this year, but I would disagree. I think there's been two, his to some extent and mine. And I'm referring to Ja Morant, who is, of course, playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. He brought up bad teams. You can't really get much more of a bad team than the Memphis Grizzlies because at least the Knicks have some kind of talent. Other than Ja, this team has absolutely nothing. I think they're currently 5-12 right now. However, Ja is currently averaging nearly 20 points per game, 6 assists per game, 5 rebounds a game. He has, I believe, by a very wide margin the highest average points per game of any rookie right now. And again, on a very bad team, which means he's basically carrying this team. Unfortunately, he just got injured recently, which again just shows how much he's having to carry the workload of this team. He's having to do it all by himself. And just the fact that as a point guard, which I think is even more important, for a very young point guard to be able to carry a team as much as he has so far, I think is very, very impressive. So I've gone with Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies.
I suppose I'd better bring Jacob back in for the main round.
It might help a little bit.
All right. 5 minutes is on the clock, and the main round starts when anyone starts talking. And yeah, have fun.
RJ Barrett is the third best player currently on the New York Knicks. And that's covering a lot of ground considering how bad you said they are. What you said, 4-16. He's not as
Name
good
the
as
other two players. Who's ahead of him?
Marcus Morris and let's see, I believe it's not Ty Gibson. It would be Julius Randle.
Okay, I'm actually definitely surprised that you were able to name other players on the New York Knicks. That's a false statement that he's the third best player on that team. Of the three, I would take RJ Barrett any day. Marcus Morris has not been doing that great. I don't know what you're watching. And Julius Randle at times is fantastic. I mean, you watched him play with New Orleans last year against LA, went off for like 31 points, 20 rebounds. He is a great player. Occasionally, he is very, very non-reliable, and that's been a lot of this year. So with you saying he's the third best player in that team, I don't know why you're saying that, but okay, if you want to say that,
I would take any of those players on the Knicks right now over a 36-year-old Andre Iguodala, or as I mentioned earlier, a 6 points per game Grayson Allen, Mr. Tripper, as we all know him. Like, they literally have nobody on the Memphis Grizzlies. Name me anybody else on the Grizzlies right now.
Jonas Valanciunas.
How good is he?
And Jaren Jackson. Actually, very good. Yeah, they're not the best big men in the game, but they're okay. The fact that you would take Ja Morant over Andre Iguodala, a two-time NBA championship MVP. No, I would definitely take Andre Iguodala just for the sheer leadership.
Take that right now.
Just for the leadership and the experience he gives you.
Not the gameplay right now.
I mean, he isn't a horrible basketball player. You're going to get good play out of him. But again, that leadership and that experience of being in the playoffs and being in the finals. I mean, this last argument that we had, you made the statement that Ohio State's can be better because they have more experience. LSU hasn't been there. Andre Iguodala has had more playoff appearances in 3 years than most teams have had in the past 10 years. I mean, if you're talking about experience, Andre Iguodala is one of the most experienced basketball players right now.
But Andre Iguodala is not running the Grizzlies offense right now. It's Ja Morant. The point guard still runs the offense last I checked. So Ja Morant is running the Memphis Grizzlies offense for better or worse. Obviously, they're struggling. And he's also the main focus. He's the first penetration of defense. Everything starts and ends with the point guard. Andre Iguodala was a great player, not nearly as good as he was, but still, the offense does not revolve around him and never has since he's been at Memphis. It's Ja Morant's team. That's been very straightforward. RJ Barrett is not the lead option right now with the Knicks. You can say that, he's going to get better. He may get better. He may get better with another team, as you mentioned. But right now, he's not the first option. And for me, a standout rookie needs to be a person that is leading their team, the best player on their team. And right now, I don't think RJ Barrett is that, even with the Knicks as bad as they are. I still think there are better players on that team right now.
You are giving Malcolm a heart attack with every sentence you are saying because they're all wrong, first off. Well, yes, the point guard is, you say the leader of the offense. If you look at the best players on most teams, it's actually the small forward. Well, yes, the point guard's usually like the first one to get the ball. Most teams are built around a small forward. And if you're going to tell me that I'm wrong, LeBron James.
He's a power forward.
He actually started out as a small forward. Now he's a power forward because he's bigger. Kevin Durant, small forward. Carmelo Anthony, small forward. I mean, you look at all the top players.
But there's one thing that you mentioned about all those players that they do. They also run the point when they have to. You can't deny that. All those players can run the point when they have to, which is exactly what Ja Morant does and RJ Barrett does not.
I mean, I'm sure because Frank Ntilikina, the point guard of the Knicks, is doing a great job. I would not be surprised to see RJ Barrett running the points. Ja Morant is not the greatest player on the Memphis team right now. I would easily take Andre Iguodala over him. Grayson Allen has moments where he is a great player. Yes, he trips. That was actually in college. He hasn't really done that yet. But
well, he's never done it because he's not on the court enough to trip anybody.
He's a starter on the Memphis Grizzlies. You cannot. He averages over 20 minutes a game. You cannot tell me he's not on the court enough.
And averaging 6 points.
Okay, I'm not saying he's the best player on the team.
Right. Now we go into the closings. 1 minute is on the clock. JDH, time begins when you start talking.
Jacob did try to bring up the fact that Andre Iguodala is the better player, but ultimately that's not what the question is. It's just been who's been the most impressive rookie so far. And right now I would definitely take Ja over RJ. He's averaging 6 more points a game, averaging nearly 5 more assists per game. So nearly in every stat category that matters, he is doing better than RJ. Also, say what you will about what you think about the overall talent of the Knicks. I still think that Ja is higher up on the corporate ladder of talent on his Grizzlies team than RJ is on the Knicks. And the fact that the Knicks are in the East, they should be winning more if RJ is as good as you're claiming they are, and with the talent that they allegedly have, and they still stink, even in the East. Memphis has a little bit more of an out. I wouldn't say it's much of an out because they're in the West, but they have a lot harder ladder to climb simply because the West is just loaded. There's too many great teams over there. So it's going to be a struggle early on, but the constant does remain that Ja is producing when he's out there.
Time. All right, Jacob, 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right, so if the question was who's going to have the better career between the two, I see where you're making good arguments. But the question is, who so far has had who's been the most impressive rookie so far? Well, yes, Ja Morant has had better stats. I have him right here, 19.1 points per game to RJ's 15. Ja with 3.1 rebounds per game to RJ's 5.6. Ja 6.3 assists to RJ's 3.6. So of the three, RJ has one on top. So that's why I'm not trying to go with the stats, because stats are great, but they don't tell the entire story. There's this great thing called the intangibles. And the biggest intangible of all is leadership. If you look at the Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant is not the leader of that team. He is not the leader of that offense. He might be the point guard. He might be the coach, if you'll call it. Andre Iguodala is the number one option on that offense. RJ Barrett is the leader of the New York Knicks offense right now. And in as many games.
Good fight, Jacob.
All right. Now time to get on to the judging. And Kevin, I'm going to start with you on this. Who do you think should get the point?
I'm going to give my point to JTH on this one. He won me over in his closing with Ja, with the stats. I do think stats matter when you're talking about rookies, especially in a new season like this. I mean, you don't really have that much to go off of. You can't really say RJ Barrett is the leader of the team. I mean, yeah, Andre Iguodala, I would probably take him too, but I agree that the Grizz in the West, it's a more loaded conference, and the Knicks in the East, that's they should have an easier road. So my point's going to go to JTH.
Jonathan, who should get the point and why?
Excuse me. I'm going to agree with Kevin. I'm going to give the point to JTH, and my reason is because that, it's true that RJ Bear did very well with a Knicks team right here, but at the same time, I don't think he's sort of the best player out of that team right here, and also that conference right here is a little bit more in and out. Well, JTH's other player, on the other hand, have a more tougher schedule right here, and he's basically the backbone of the team together. Even when he got injured right here, he is still the force right here to persevere all through around here, and he gets more great stats along with it. So I'm going to go with JTH.
And yeah, I would have agreed with everyone and said JDH should get the point. It was a really close battle, and yeah, it was tough, but I had a lot more from JDH about this, but it does mean JDH gets the point, and it also means we go to speed round. So, yay! Now, with the speed round, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the question twice, and they get a buzz in with their names, and then give the answer, just so it's clear we know who sort of got in first, without hearing two names being thrown in and doubled it up. But anyway, your speed round question is: what is the worst FIFA World Cup host nation? And just to repeat it again, what is the worst FIFA World Cup host nation?
Jacob. I'm going to go with South Africa.
I will go with Russia.
Right, so we've got South Africa versus Russia. And because Jacob went first, he goes first, and 45 seconds is on the clock. And for the openings, try to keep it to your own pick, and then you can talk about the other picks in the later rounds. So, 45 seconds starts when you start talking.
So the one that I went with was the 2010 World Cup being hosted in the African nation of South Africa. The reason this was a bad World Cup, South Africa is not really known for their soccer. The actual soccer team only won one game the entire tournament, but that's not the question. The crowd was not that interactive with the games. I mean, you had the people come from the other countries, like the people there for South Africa, it didn't really do much for the country. It didn't there wasn't a lot of like big impact like there have been in previous World Cups. And also one word, couple syllables, I'm not going to count them off the top of my head. Vuvuzelas, the most annoying thing.
JDH, 45 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Putin, pollution, pathetic, all the other P's you can think of. There were people that were literally not wanting to attend this World Cup because of having to go into that nation under that dictatorship. There was also all the smog warnings that we were getting. People were told to put face masks over them so that they could breathe at certain locations. To me, that is a terrible choice for a World Cup host. And he brought up the fact South Africa is not known as a World Cup powerhouse. Well, neither is Russia. Last I checked, I think Russia only won one game in the World Cup where they were there too. So I think that completely counteracts that. To me, it was a complete disaster from start to finish. When as soon as Russia was announced as the host of this, a lot of people were wondering, should they attend?
We go down to 30 seconds. Jacob, we go back to you. 30 seconds starts when you start talking.
So it actually made a lot of sense to go to Russia. The Olympics were just there right before. Plus, it's centrally located. Not a lot of countries had to travel that far to get to Russia. South Africa is literally on the other side of Africa for most European teams, most American teams. It was a large trip. Plus, you have vuvuzelas, one of the most annoying thing ever invented. They sound like freaking bees. Who wants to go to a soccer game where all you hear is the entire time. They did not stop. It was so annoying. It was bad to watch.
JDH, 30 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
90% of the nations that go to the World Cup have people that throw flares on the field when their team's not winning. I think those things were the least of many people's problems. There were literally conspiracies when the USA did not qualify for that World Cup in Russia. Did the US even want to go to Russia? Maybe that's why they didn't qualify for the World Cup, with all the crap that was going on between the US and Russia. Also, South Africa, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is a worldwide figure and a hero. Many people wanted to go to South Africa.
All right. Go down to 20 seconds, and this is your most important 20 seconds of your life. Jacob, 20 seconds starts when you start talking.
I mean, you talk about controversy of America not making it. No, America didn't make it because they didn't play that well the couple of years before. No, there really wasn't that much controversy as far as it actually going to Russia. No, it was all straight up. There was not a lot of controversy. I don't know what you're talking about. Just America not making it. America's not really a World Cup powerhouse. So,
JDH, 20 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Jacob brought up the fact that the Olympics were in Russia a little bit earlier, and it was bad then, which made it even worse of a reason to go back for the World Cup, and it didn't even improve, so there was no reason to even attempt to try and go back there again. It just doubles down on the badness that made Russia a bad World Cup host from start to finish.
Almost on.
Good match, Jacob.
You too.
And I'll go bring in the judges. I'm not going to bother taking one out. Right. Jonathan, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think should get the point and why?
Oh, I would say, even though both of them put great points on one here, though, I had to give this one slightly to JTH because I think the reason is not just only U.S. doesn't want to go to Russia, though. It just many sort of expenses around it right here. And I don't think Russia is sort of well known for soccer around here. And that's not sort of the popularity around that time when it's announced, though. So I don't think he put up a very good compelling argument right here. So I had to go with JTH.
I'm going to go next on this. Yeah, this was a really close battle because Jacob put up a lot of good points. I'm probably going to go slightly to Jacob actually because he put up good points in that the fact that it made sense because they had the Olympics there, so they thought that they had the Olympics there. Let's take the World Cup there as well. Well, I know JDH did counter that a bit. It just wasn't enough to sort of for me to sway me on that, but it does mean, Kevin, you're the deciding vote. Who is going to win this match?
Thanks. No pressure. You guys both did a really good job in the speed round, making really good points. Jacob, you made excellent points with South Africa, you brought up the year, which I liked. JTH, I wish you would have brought that up. About the crowd not being interactive, about how it's on the other side of the world, basically, and the vuvuzelas annoying as hell. The only thing I really got out of JTH is Putin. Yeah, that was a big deal. The conspiracy thing, and Nelson Mandela. So for those reasons, I'm going to give my point to Jacob.
And we cannot hear a single thing Malcolm's saying because he's muted.
That's good because I'll change my decision and make that extra winner because of that comment. But no,
I was trying to save you.
And your winner is Jacob E. West. We'll go to post-match interviews. I'll start with JDH first. JDH, you had some good battles there, but you just missed it. But how do you feel?
I mean, I guess I should have brought up the year that Russia hosted the World Cup last year. I said most recent, but be that as it may. So, overall, as I said in the beginning, I wasn't as prepared as I was hoping I would be. So, considering the fact that I got to that point, I was actually pretty happy, and I actually thought I might have had that speed round there for a second. But overall, it's hard to make arguments with judges that you're not sure where they go. Obviously, that's a learning point for me when it comes to playing. Sometimes knowing where judges may go on certain points and may want to heighten on those, but that's just the learning point. I was very happy with how I played, very proud of what I did, considering a lot of categories here I'm not as familiar with. I mean, I love my Formula One. I love my NCAA football, so I was a little disappointed I didn't get that second one. But ultimately, very happy with how I played. Look forward to coming back, playing again, and just congratulations to the victor.
Bring in Jacob. Jacob, you pulled out the victory here today. How do you feel?
Well, there's a reason I don't have much hair on my head. I had a little bit more before we started this. No, that was a fantastic match. JTH, you kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. Going into this match, there was only one question I knew I was not going to get, and that was the NBA one. And sure enough, I didn't get it. But every other one, it's like as soon as you said something, I'm like, dang it, that was the one thing I was hoping you wouldn't say. No, this was fantastic. This league's probably been one of the most fun that I've had in any of the leagues so far. So I thoroughly enjoyed the great competition that we have in Sports Brawl.
But yeah, that brings us to the end of another Sports Brawl match. I don't know if they do plugs here, but damn it, I'm just going to get people to do plugs anyway. Mac and edit it out a few wishes. Jacob, where can people find you online?
You can find me Facebook, Jacob E. West. That E is very important. Twitter, Instagram, 307 Jakob. It's YAHKOB. And you can see me all around the leagues, especially with TMG. I just hosted the championship match of the DC tournament. Thank you, Doug, for letting me fill in for you on that. You can just find me here, there, and everywhere.
JDH, where can people find you online?
You can follow me on Twitter at WWEJTH1. I do my own personal Schmodown reactions on my own YouTube channel, JTH. And you can find me hosting another branch of the TMG branch, the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate. Hopefully soon we're going to have a couple more matches on. We got some recorded, so hopefully it'll be a matter of time before they're posted. Other than that,
Jonathan, where can people find you online?
You can find me around Twitter and Instagram at JPET1098. And also, I have a Facebook, everybody. Yes, that's right. I have a Facebook now. You can find me at Jonathan Peck around here. And that's pretty much it right here.
Kevin, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Facebook, Kevin Poss, or my Letterboxd account is Kevin J. Poss. And I also have a holiday match coming up against this guy right here and some other people, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, and you can find me over on Tape Free Productions hosting Rankum. I don't know where this is coming up, so I'm not going to even try and say what the topic will be because I don't actually know at this point. But you can also find me doing the fun brackets every month. This month's bracket is holiday movies, so make sure you vote on it and all that. And January's bracket is going to be Schmodown personalities. So if you want to help form the bracket and help decide on what the season is going to be, send me a top 30 list of your favorite Schmodown personalities, and it will be added in there. You can also find me on Facebook at Malcolm Goldie Lay, and over on Formula hosting Formula Random. But until next time, we'll see you on the Sports Ball field.